Hey, church, we're back with the online Bible study where we're taking a look at every single book of the Bible. And guys, we're getting there here. We're all the way up to Luke and in the New Testament, and so this is making our way pretty quick. So if you've been tracking with us for a while now, if you've done maybe like 4 or 5 or 6 or 10 of these videos, I'd love to hear from you in those comment section below. That'd be pretty fun. But today, let's jump right into the content. It's a great one with the book of Luke on the horizon today. And this is a familiar one to a lot of us. So if you're in a group setting, it'd be pretty cool if you just went ahead and hit pause and answered some of these questions. What do you know about it? What had happened? And if you're on Facebook Live, welcome back. Listen, the theme of Luke, I don't want you to miss it. It's healing a spiritual illness. I toyed with calling this theme the original pandemic, but I thought that would be a little insensitive and I could get into trouble, so I decided not to share that one. But this is a spiritual illness, right? This is the pandemic, the OG pandemic that we're all dealing with and the fallout. And that's the lens through which Luke is going to look at sin. So let's just check out what this thing is about. Something that a lot of people know about Luke is it starts off with the birth narratives, right? Talking about how Jesus was born. In those days, Caesar Augustus issued a decree. We do that around Christmas time all the time, so that's really good. But something that we don't know as much about Luke is that he actually wrote not one but 2 books of the Bible. He wrote Acts as well. Luke and Acts are all, in fact, you could say one book of the Bible because it's like 2 parts of the same side. Luke and Acts kind of go together. Same author. There's some internal cues that tell us that, and just some of the language that it's used. You can tell a lot about language, a lot about who's writing something based on the words. And it's not actually that hard. My wife taught high school English for a long time. And she said, students are always like surprised at, when she catches a plagiarism or something like that. And she's like, it's not hard to see somebody's language immediately shift into a whole different paragraph. And this is somebody else. Well, biblical studies works a lot the same way. And you can kind of tell with some of the words that they use and the words that they don't use that it's either the same or somebody else writing. And Luke and Acts, we can tell, is the same person. And it all points towards Luke as the author. Listen, Luke was a traveling companion of Paul, which is super interesting, which is why a lot of the book of Acts kind of follows Paul. Luke doesn't talk about himself a lot, but he's writing about what he's seeing. He doesn't write himself in all that often, but he follows Paul, and so we see that. He's also a medical doctor, which is really important in his idea of how he deals with that original pandemic that we just talked about. He's also the only Gentile or the only non-Jewish gospel author. So I think Luke is really, really accessible in what he has to say because there's not like a ton of what does he mean by that? I have no idea where he's going with all of that. It's pretty accessible. It's written for people like us. All right, opening up. The opening, he says, he consults eyewitnesses to give an orderly account of the things that have been fulfilled. His idea is saying, listen, this story of Jesus is bigger than just one place. It's bigger than just one small little itty bitty group of people or one patch of dirt in the earth, in the world. This story is about the whole world, the story of God. So it's pretty powerful stuff. Let's jump in here. We got Luke 1 and 2, just kind of a quick overview. I just called those the births in the first couple of chapters, the birth of John the Baptist, and the birth of Jesus. So John is the messenger, Jesus is the king. And then we go into Jesus' mission. Now we call this, his mission is to the Ani. Let me explain that. There's a little bit of that going on later. The mission starts off in Galilee, kind of hometown for him. And we see Jesus' baptism. And there's the Spirit, there's the voice from heaven, there's the Son. This is my Son whom I am well pleased. Right? So we have the triune Godhead, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, all coming together. And then Jesus gets the authority, and then he launches out into ministry. Now this is important. It's a quote, Jesus, he's in his synagogue, he's opening up his ministry, and he's saying, this is who I'm going to be about. This is who I'm for. This is hallmarks of my ministry. I think it's Isaiah 61. But anyway, you can fact check me and comment on that later. But Jesus says that the Spirit of the Lord is on me. He's using Isaiah, but he's talking about himself, to proclaim good news to the poor. and sent me to proclaim freedom for the prisoners. Now the word poor and freedom, those are interesting. He's using those very, very intentionally. Luke is writing this, and he's highlighting kind of the social implications of what it means to be the Messiah, the Jesus kind of Messiah. The word for freedom there is aphesis, and it literally means, specifically means to release in a specific kind of way to release. He's using it in the way of the Old Testament, the year of Jubilee, where slaves were released and debts were canceled. Okay, so it's that kind of a freedom. It's releasing from everything that holds us, everything that keeps us down, everything that sets us back. And then we have the poor. What does it mean to be poor? Well, ani is the Hebrew word in the Old Testament. Very important, church. When Jesus is talking about the poor and the marginalized, he's not just talking about money. That's one way to look at it. But when he uses ani, kind of just forget about that like poor language entirely, because it's really, really not helpful. He's really talking about social status. He's talking about vulnerable populations. He's talking about outsiders, even people who've made bad life decisions, life choices, and they've like put themselves into that category. That ani could be spiritual, it could be financial, it could be physical, it could be emotional, right? It could be hypocritical, right? There's so many ways to find yourself in that ani category. And financial destitution is really one very, very limited perspective. And so if we're going to understand the gospel that Jesus has in Luke, we got to understand it so much more. Okay, and Jesus says, listen, I've got especially good news for any one of us who considers themselves, who finds themselves in that group, in the ani. So we've got some stories that he launches. This is what it looks like. There's a bedridden sick woman. She's definitely ani. There's a guy with a skin disease called leprosy. He's definitely ani. The paralyzed guy, ani, but also a tax collector. He's not financially poor. That guy has all kinds of money. He's probably the richest guy that Jesus rubbed shoulders with. But listen, also ani, because of what he did for a living, it put him kind of on the outside. And of course, prostitute that he meets, again, ani. So this is Jesus welcoming the outsider. If you call Encounter Church your church home, this is so important that you get. He's welcoming the outsiders. He's bringing people far from God to new life in Jesus, to new life in himself. And I love how he ends his mission. He creates the 12 disciples. He names them. And it's kind of a recasting of the 12 tribes of Israel, right? So he's going back to that, and he's saying, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to do this over again, and we're going to do this once and completely. And it's not just 12 tribes in the Old Testament, it's 12 disciples that are given the mission. And of course, there's the resistance from the Pharisees and the hypocrites who don't want to see themselves as the ani, as the outsider. A middle chunk of the gospel of the book of Luke is this faith journey. I got to go on a little rant, I guess, on faith journey. That word is used a lot. And one of the ways that it's really, really good, faith journey, is because it's in the book of Luke. Jesus talks about on the way to Jerusalem like a dozen times in this little chapter, in this little like chunk. He's going to Jerusalem. So there's like this journey. There's two parts to a journey, so as I could ascertain. There's movement and there's destination. Sometimes we talk about a faith journey and we really only emphasize movement. We don't emphasize destination. I'm not just talking about heaven here. I'm talking about the kind of person in Jesus, the kind of person he is making you become, empowered by the Holy Spirit. Right? Movement and destination. Sometimes we just talk about movement. We go through life and we have a new perspective. That's movement. Great. But what's the destination? Jesus is heading towards a destination. He's heading towards his own self-sacrifice. What is your destination? Faith journey is not just about movement. It's also about destination. Okay, so Jesus gathers his people up on this faith journey where they're moving, but they're also going somewhere. There's participation. He's sending them out. He's teaching them. There's these object lessons. He's shaping the community. He's hanging out with all kinds of ani, along with the leaders, ani who don't think that they're ani. Remember, ani is the outsiders. And then it kind of wraps up with this Luke 15, two brothers story, where we have the story of Jesus telling the older brother, the younger brother, and one of them, the younger brother, screws up and comes back home with a heavy heart and a repentant heart. And the older brother is like, hey, all these years I've been slaving for you. What gives? Why are you being so generous towards him? Obviously, Jesus is talking about like who's really the outsider here? Who's really the ani? Who is more sick? The guy who's come back home with a repentant and heavy heart, or the guy who doesn't even think he's sick at all? Jesus just kind of leaves it hanging. I love that. Cool. Then we have Luke in his kind of gives the final week of Jesus' life, where again you have a similar story, a passion narrative. Luke is unique in this because he's really emphasizing the innocence of Jesus all throughout. 3 times Pilate says, this guy has done nothing wrong. Herod says, I don't find any reason why we should put him to death. Really, it's Luke as the doctor saying, we are all ani. We are all so spiritually sick. Like the pandemic has seeped into all of our bones and souls. But this guy doesn't seem to have been affected by it. This guy seems to be not just spiritually healthy, but spiritually perfect, perfectly healthy. Even in Jesus' death, then you have this Jesus sacrificing himself, and you have him on the cross saying, Father, forgive these soldiers, right, who they don't know what they're doing. He looks over to the thief on the cross and he says, today you're going to be with me in paradise. He's healing people. He's restoring people. He's pursuing the lost. He's healing the spiritually sick, even in his own death. And there's this really cool kind of picture at the very end of Luke that's unique to him. On the road to Emmaus, where you've got these guys, they're walking down the road and they're all beat up and they're all sad. And Jesus comes alongside of them and says, why are you so downcast? Why are you so sad? And they said, this Jesus guy, we thought he was the Messiah and we thought he was the king, he's going to do all this stuff. And then, then they killed him. And so I guess, I guess that's over. We don't really know what to do with that anymore. And Jesus kind of walks along with them. And it wasn't until later on that Jesus breaks bread, has a meal with him, right? Bringing the ani into fellowship, that their eyes are open and they understand that it's Jesus, and he explains everything, how everything in the Old Testament pointed towards him as the Messiah. And it's just this kind of cool picture that you have, this whole point on it that as long as we're imposing our views on Jesus, we're really not going to get it, right? As long as we're walking through and man, Jesus, I thought you were going to do this, that, and the other thing, then we're not really going to ever be able to see it. But it's in this open-hearted surrender when we don't even expect it that Jesus breaks through and Jesus shows us once and for all. All right, and then at the end of Luke, you kind of have this movement to go now. Great, you've been cured. Now what? And that's kind of where Luke ends, and that's where Acts will pick up. Key verse in Luke, if you're looking for a memory passage on each one of these, the Son of Man came to seek and save the lost. Luke 19:10, everything that was lost. Okay, so we do this section, spotting Jesus in Luke. That's good. Okay, Luke is a doctor. He's diagnosing the problem. The problem, the spiritual illness of the whole world is sin. Luke identifies that. Sin is infectious, contagious, and terminal. Worse yet, it's often misdiagnosed, and its consequences, its effects are severe. So Jesus seeks out all the places where sin hides. He associates tax collectors, sinners, prostitutes, the hypocritical religious leaders, all these places, these cancerous masses, right? That develop in the society, in the community, the demon possessed, right? And Jesus goes right into those and radiation or chemo. He's targeting these things, these cancers, and he's destroying them from the inside out. Sometimes by healing them, sometimes by confronting them. But the point is to demonstrate Jesus' ultimate effect over sin. He delivers the sin's ultimate effect of sin. Jesus delivers people's from their immediate effects, any kind of brokenness at all. That's the immediate effect of sin. Eventually, this cure, Jesus bumping in like this, the confrontation of the cure and the cancer is going to demand Jesus' own life, and that intersection happens itself. And then I love that picture, right? Because we're a missional church at Encounter. We're on the move. And if you consider yourself on this journey with Jesus, the movement and the destination, we're not just moving on a journey, we're going somewhere. And where we're going is to bring people who are far from God to new life in Him. So if you've been cured in any way of this brokenness, of sin's immediate or ultimate effect, listen, this is on you. Let's join the mission. Let's bring the ani. Let's bring the outsider. Let's bring those people who are financially, socially, racially, emotionally, physically, anybody who's on the outside. Let's bring the ani, Hebrew term, to the feet of Jesus for health and for restoration. Awesome, guys. I'm so glad that you guys tuned in and hung out here for a little while. We've got some reflection questions on the screen. Don't forget, all these videos in each book of the Bible are stored on our YouTube channel, and I know we've got some small groups kind of gathering around using these videos in their section and their time together. So what I'm going to do is just go ahead and leave them on the screen for a little while, and if you'd like to pause and have an individual reflection on this, or in a group setting, you can hit pause on those before the video shuts off. Thanks for hanging out, guys. We'll see you next week at noon on Wednesday.